Okay, so just installed the heat shield tunnel that now looking toward the rear of the car from underneath. The tunnel's going wider toward the ends. It almost looks like it's going over a transmission, but the bigger part definitely goes on the rear, and up front of it on the passenger side here you have a bolt that is 8mm bolt. It's about ½ inch long, 12mm I would say. So this bolt there is the same actually kind of bolt that goes for that bracket here. That bracket goes, I'll show you later on, but that, and then you have the other one here which is like the sheet metal nut that goes with a big flat washer, and you can recognize this thing here where it's like a swivel thing to hold the under splash cover from the rear. Also installed that thing just loose for now. This is the bracket for the exhaust, so it's in place. So install this bracket here, and this one, and the exhaust one. So back at the heat shield tunnel. So here up forward under the front end and the driver's side, here is one of these nut plate. Again, driver's side. If you keep going toward the rear, then you skip. You gotta skip. You gotta pay attention when you install the heat shield. The driver's side black thing gotta go over it, but the passenger side, the heat shield goes underneath these black thing on both driver side and passenger side. This is passenger side, this is driver side. On the driver side, you put the first nut here. This aluminum plate is because I made a fix on it because it was rusted. So this is one sheet metal nut incorporated with a washer. So then after that, you gotta, if you keep going, you skip here, nothing for now. The two first hole, there's nothing for now. These are going to be used for when we're going to install the under splash cover, the rear part of it. So these here, you got, after that you got one of these plastic device. You need to remove the mid screw that is plastic. You insert carefully this thing, and then you just push it inside. So that's for the front part of it. And then if I go on the passenger side, as I said, you got this bolt here that is 8mm bolt. Then you have the nut plate, not the nut plate, but like a nut punch in a plate. Again, same plastic thing. Okay, if I keep going toward the rear, sorry about that. So again, driver side. So on the driver side, on the rear, you got one nut plate here, another one here, and then in the middle toward the rear, you got one of these again. Then on the rear, really on the rear, a bolt at the bottom sides here and there. These are bolts. These are bolts similar to the one of the splash shield, under splash sheet, splash cover, but these are bigger ones. So these are the ones that go, you got one on each end at the bottom on the rear. So once you're done with that, the splash shield is in place. Okay, back on this exhaust bracket here. So the exhaust bracket, there's something a bit special when you install those. The bolts are going through some black bushings. So the bushing has got a smaller diameter. The smaller diameter goes inside of that. There's a clean diameter here. So these bushing on each side, the smaller, they're like pinching, but the smaller diameter are pinching together, and they're located in that bracket there. So when you're gonna install them, you gotta make sure that you put the two plastic like bushing in the right position. Right now it's just loose, so I can slide it. Once I'm gonna fit the exhaust in it, once the exhaust gonna be fit in there, then I'm gonna torque this thing. Then I'm gonna be able to torque these two bolts. So these are here are like Torque's kind of head. You need the E socket, female. The other side is like a regular nut. You can also see these bracket that I installed. So here is the aluminum one with the bolt 8mm, 12mm long, and here this one is a nut plate that holds it. This one's got two tabs that fits in two holes to locate it and prevent it from turning like that. And this one here just got one tab here, you can see. Okay, so time to install the exhaust. We're gonna start by the rear part of it, the muffler. So if you look here, there is this shiny black little thing. This is where you gotta hook up the vacuum valve. There's a vacuum hose under the car. This is an actuator, as you can see here, for the exhaust. So then we're gonna put, there's a rubber mount that goes here, another one here on the back, and there's this one here. This one we leave it with the muffler because it was easier to remove this part than the other one. So the rubber mount we're looking for are pieces like that from under the car. So we're gonna hook up the three of those. So the vacuum hose, and this part is gonna be in place. This is the brush I was talking about. It's just a brush that it's got a hexagonal stud that you can hook up to just a regular hand drill. Very handful when you do mechanics to remove rusts. Okay, you want to set all the wiring aside to get a bit of room here to go play with these pre-catalysis thing. So also, before putting this exhaust pipe, you want to brush the front end of it. Make sure the gasket's gonna have a good experience and it's gonna work good. Pre-catalysis is gonna go right here on the turbo flange, and the second one is right there. So I want to make the color so that the bolt is gonna line up right here on the top. Because I like to be able to remove those easily. So I'm gonna set it in such a way that I can access the bolt right there. This one here, probably I gotta have to check, but I think I can access the bolt in between this pipe and the turbo flange. So I'm gonna set those in order to be able to achieve that. Also, it's a good thing to replace. Oh, this is the bracket that goes on the transmission. So once these are gonna be in place, I need to also to set that bracket with the aluminum bolts that remains from transmission. It's a good thing also to replace these seals. So these seals go at the bottom, and these are ring gasket seal that goes around the turbo. So gonna replace all of those. Also the nuts. Nuts are going to be replaced, brand new, and these are the bolts that lock on the collars. These are the collars I'm talking about. So this is the boat. So you gotta make sure which side flip this way or this way. Not sure yet, but when you're gonna align it in place, you want to make sure that it's gonna make sense, so that the collar is gonna align for the boat to be in a good spot. So these are the nuts. You need 2 of those. These are the nuts that connects here. Let me show you here, it's gonna be easier. And that bracket here. So this is what connects these pre-catalysis to that bracket here on the 2 kind of sluts. This one and this one. Okay, so first off, from under the car, you want to insert the gasket here on the turbo, like this one. If you look, the other one is not in yet. So you insert one. If it tend to fall, then so you insert one. If it tends to fall, just insert one first, and then you wait till your exhaust is in place to insert the second one. But mine seems to hold pretty good, so I'm gonna insert the second one. Okay, I suggest you install the rear one first. It's gonna work better if you're a 2. This is a very difficult task because it's very crowded. So you want to install the collar up front first, and then the bracket now you see is loose. This bracket with the transmission bolt. So right now I installed it and it's kind of loose with the bolt. So there's like a stud that connects the 2 flanges of that bracket. This stud goes up above. So, and when you put the collar on, you want to keep it loose a bit. You want to put the bolt first. Once the bolt is in, you need to take multi-grip pliers to kind of squeeze the collar in. Then you can put the bolt on. Once the bolt is on, you want to give it a bit of loose so that you can keep on rotating this piece of exhaust, because you might need to line up the exhaust with the bracket like that. So what I'm talking about is you need pliers to pinch this collar like that once it's in place, so that you can put the bolt in. Then you might need to punch it out a bit to open it, but it's gonna, with the bolt in, it's gonna stay around, so you'll be able to rotate the exhaust part. So as I said, we started with the rear one. So if you look at the front one, this is the front one, the one that is on the long side like that. So the rear one is the one that is kind of crimpy and goes back toward the rear. So now we're gonna insert the first one, front one. In order to insert it, you kind of need to, when you want to insert it, you gotta take this flange here, the flange, right, with the collar, and you kind of want to insert it right here above the cross member, aluminum cross member. So it's kind of, you need to turn the whole thing down in order, so you can reach it there, and then you can turn it like that and it's gonna go. So it's a bit of a challenge to fit this thing in there. It's very crowded, but again, 2-person would be a very good asset to be. Once you set the 2 collars, you want to make sure that you're gonna put these both in place. The 2 bolts that goes with the bracket. Trying to show you, it's very difficult to find the right angle. So these both here. So you need to set up the 2 of them. Again, you pick up most of the loose, give it a bit of loose in the end, Okay, once you got these two, the further one is going to be a good challenge to reach. There are 2 pins. If you look around here, it's a bit hard to see, but there's a pin on the bracket. This pin's gotta line up with the, there's like a half moon. So there's a, what I'm trying to say is there is a, so on the bracket there is like a half moon that line up with that pin on top of the screen. It's hard to see, but so you need to line these up. But anyways, so if you do have the 2 aluminum bolt with this bracket, the bracket is going to be located, so then it's going to be easier to yeah, you see here we got the lower one, so it's going to be easier to line up the studs and of the exhaust that line up with that flange and the pins and everything. So you can see around here, we can see the pin, it's on the other side, but this is the pin I'm talking about here. So that is the pin I'm talking about. So this is about it. You see the other pin on the other side. So now we're going to tighten up the bolts on the collar of the exhaust, both of them final. I line up the bolts so I can access them from the space from above between the engine on the exhaust side and the firewall, not the firewall but the wing, let's say the frame. So I'm able to access both of those bolt heads from that side. Okay, I'm gonna torque the collar bolts first, then I'm going to torque the aluminum bolts remaining for the transmission. There's 3 of them, and finally I'm gonna torque the nuts here on the bracket. Okay, so in order to give you an idea about the lineup of these bolts for the exhaust spray catalyst, I'm going to show you with a ratchet extension what I have. So this one here, you can see this is the rear turbo. That one is pretty straightforward. Okay, this is this bolt that is right there. Okay, the other one, it's the other one is underneath the big pipe. So this is when I connect the socket to it. So that's the second one. So you can tell it's right behind this coolant pipe, and this is the range I have. So gives you an idea of the alignment of those. Also, you want to bring up the 2 long wires. There's 2 long wires. There's a gray one with a connector for the oxygen sensor, and there's a black one that is right here. So these 2, you want to bring them up above, because when you're gonna set up your wiring, it's gonna go all around. You cannot go wrong. There's 2 oxygen sensors on each of those, one with a very long wire and the other one is a shorter wire, so you cannot mix them up. Okay, so I just torqued these 3 aluminum bolts that you can see. So this one, and this one. So they are now I installed the brand new bolts, obviously, which I early on I just put the 2 new bolts without torquing them for the bracket that holds the pre-catalysis. That is the bracket is right here. Pre-catalysis are these two things here that connects with the turbo. So the torques for those bolts are 221 pound-inch, and then you need to add 130 degree. I need a very long extension on my ratchet in order to reach those, so it's not really reliable. So what I do is I make a mark on the boat. You can see there's a mark here. The boat has 6 spokes, so the spokes are spaced by 60 degree each. So what I do is I make a mark on the spoke, and then I make a mark underneath. If you look here, and I turn an extra 2 spoke in order to do that, so it's more easy when I torque. What I do is I make a mark on the socket, on the outside of the socket that lines up with the spoke inside the socket, sorry. And I made 2 of those, so I make sure to align the one with you gotta make sure when you're gonna turn clockwise that it's gonna be spaced by 2. So what I do is I line up the socket with the mark outside and underneath that you see here, and then I just need to look at my socket for the second mark to line up with this mark. And I can always double check with the boat itself because I have the mark on the boat. So these are done now. So since they were not torqued already, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna recheck these both here. The ones at the bottom, there's 2 of those that connect with the oxygen sensor connector bracket, and there's a third one if you go on that side up. I'm not sure I can. Yeah, it's right there. So these are 168 pound-inch. So I'm gonna recheck these 3 bolts. Then the transmission bolts is gonna be a done deal. The reason why I waited for it is because I knew I needed to play with that when I'm gonna connect the pre-catalysis. And aluminum boat, if you torque them, you cannot remove them. So once this is done, this is gonna be completed. I also removed the brackets that were beside the transmission here, because it makes me more room to do so. So I removed this bracket here to connect the oxygen sensor connectors. I removed also the aluminum one here, and there's another aluminum one there that I removed. So once I'm done, I'm gonna connect the exhaust pipe that goes between the pre-catalysis all the way back to the muffler. Mine was separated because it broke when I uninstalled it. If you have it in one piece, then this would be the time to install the long pipe. After that, don't forget to insert the gasket, this gasket there in between. And so this is it. So now just retorquing these 3 bolts, 168 pound-inch, then installing the remaining of the exhaust. So I'm gonna have to connect obviously the front hand first, as the rear hand can swivel a bit with the rubber mount. Okay, I forgot to mention I have to torque these bolt here. Not the bolt, but I forgot to mention I have to torque the. Oops. I forgot I have to torque the nut. This nut here on the bracket, and there's another one above behind. So these 2 nuts I got to torque by just by the feeling of it with the ratchet or wrench, I don't know what you want to call this. So I need to torque these 2, and then it's gonna be time to after that time to retorque the 3 bolts at the bottom, 168 pound-inch, and then we're gonna install the pipe starting from the up front, and lastly connect the rear end. Okay, so did torque the 4 nuts. You can see 3 of those now. The third one is 4th one is above. So these been torqued. So install the bracket So install this one here, then these two, this one again, and this one here with the bolt that is 8mm, about diameter about 12mm long. So these 3 brackets are installed. Now connect the sorry about that. Now connect also the oxygen sensor wiring. So the one here is the black wire. Not sure which one it is. I think in a way you cannot mix them up with the connector. So, but not sure. So this one here connects. There's a clip underneath that thing here. A clip like this one here. So the gray one go up front. You hold the wire there. The gray wire gets into a clip here as well underneath this long clip that goes on the transmission. So you hook the connector. Once it's plugged, you just clip it there, both of those, and then you clip this 3-to-1 here connector. There's a stud to connect there, and this one here is to connect with the oil engine oil level sensor. Okay, so when doing that bracket with the exhaust system, so you want to leave that thing, these two here, very loose. Then you want to hook up the bolt there in the middle behind it. It's like a it goes around both of the pipe. You just want to get the bolt in there at first, leave it a bit loose but enough thread so it grips. Once you got that, you pick up the loose here both places, but you keep it still just a bit of loose, so that it's gonna have the right angle like that. Then you torque that one here. Once it's torqued, then you torque these two here. So to torque those, don't forget you got to hold the other side, the Torx head both. Also make sure that the black bushing here on both hands in between, because the black bushing, they squeeze on that piece here. You got to make sure that they line up with the holes. You don't want to clamp it while they're not inside, because there's a smaller diameter that locates in those. So once this is done, exhaust is on, all the connectors are clipped and in place. So the last one to be plugged on my case is the oil level sensor, which I'm gonna do right now. Okay, so then you need to install this kind of a V or X bar. So you do this plate here with the 4 bolts. They're a bit hard to see, but they're here and they like in the groove. So when you install that thing, this is where it goes. It's about you see these 2 little bigger size, oversized kind of thing in the exhaust, and then you have this. It goes right after the big part and the link between. This is looking at the rear of the car from underneath. So pick up most of the loose, then you do this. If you follow the X, you gotta do these both there. So these one are slotted, so you wanna as well pick up the loose, most of it. Then the other side, same thing. And then once you're done, you torque the plate first, and then you finish by the 2 extremities, and this is done.